All right. For the last few years, this has been my setup as far as a onboard air system goes. It's like a low airflow pump mounted up on top of this. And this usually will have my actual air hoses and tools and all that sort of stuff, and then runs back cleanly under here, up over, and then hooks in underneath the seats. But in order to get ready for some upgrades pretty soon, decided to go ahead and buy one of these. It's a little bit bigger, so I can't really fit it up here. So I'm just gonna come up with a solution to actually mounting that up in here. This should give me a lot better airflow, filling up tires. This worked all the way up to what I currently have. It's a little slow. For 32 inches, it's okay, but it's nowhere near the best. So hopefully this will end up doing a little more work on that. You may see that this is busted, got busted in shipping, but we're just gonna set it up. I contacted them, they're gonna send me a new plug for that, but I can at least get everything all set up how I want it, and then when that comes in, I'll just swap out that one plug and then we'll be good to go. After looking around all over the Jeep, trying to test fit locations and looking online, see where people post these, I think this is a setup I'm gonna go with. I'll set it like a little angle. I'll make a bracket to mount it off of the bottom of this little stainless steel little shelf in here. And then the next part will just go up through the side. With that an angle, I'm thinking that will let it put most of its weight on here, which is pretty solid. So this is using the spare tire mount. It's using that as its actual base. So this should be solid enough to hold that. And then I'll measure it on out, basically put an L bracket out here as far as I can and try to move it as forward as I can. And then after I get that in place, right around here, then I can end up moving this back, drill new holes, and then I'll probably rivet it again. So I'll just have to clean up all this, get those L brackets, and check that out. There we go. Luckily it's aluminum, so it's not hot. A little warm, but not bad. Not perfect, but it'll do. So I got my two little pieces of aluminum all cut out, two little pieces of angle. And what the plan is one of them is going to go up in here. And then the next one is gonna need to be cut down a little bit, most likely, but it'll go somewhere around down here. I'm probably gonna have it hanging over a little bit, but so I might have to end up cutting pretty much this shape out of here. So just basically gonna try to mimic that. I'll take a piece of cardboard and cut it up so I can cut like down across it, and then I'll just cut off the back of it, so then I can bolt it straight down through here. As long as there's room for it on the other side, that's how I'll plan to do that. And then we'll take another piece and I'm gonna bolt it straight to this, come up to the top, and then bend it, and then wherever it meets up top, I'll end up doing the same thing. So I'll end up just bending it over the top of this and bolting it to that, and that should give me a angled platform right in there for this to be mounted up on. Alright, so there it is. Traced it onto this little piece. Cut out, only took this little angle out, but that's enough to get it butt up pretty close to this little edge and lined up pretty well with that top one. It's not completely perfect, but this can end up coming over to the left a little bit if I need to. So now I'm just gonna tape this down, get a piece of cardboard just to get an idea on where it's gonna go. And I'll use that as my template to cut out the next piece. All right, so I cut all this out of cardboard just to get an idea of what it's gonna look like. And this is what I came up with. So this little corner, I'm gonna have to round off or angle it or something. I end up just rounding it off on this one. I might just end up cutting a straight angle off. It's not gonna be seen no matter what. Then up top, it's a little bit wider, so I'm probably gonna recut this one that's down in there. It's a little bit on both sides of it. It sticks out. So I might just measure the top of this, cut that into its own piece, and then the bottom one is flush on this side, but this side's sticking out about that far. So I'll leave this whole thing. It's only gonna need like that much to mount on, but I'm thinking that this will help keep it from wanting to like yank itself up that way. But it's a template for now. And go ahead and try to get that cut out of aluminum now, and then see about how to do these bends. So here it is all fabbed up. I used a piece of stainless that I had already sitting around. I thought I had enough to make it come all the way down to the bottom and all the way up across the top, but ended up that in order to use a 90-degree like this, because it was just a little box, I ended up just cutting a piece of that and then cutting down to where the other part of that was. So it'll be a little bit of gap, but it's plenty of enough for me to get bolts on there. And then the top, I'll just end up replacing this with a little bit wider of one. The bottom one will be good right about where it's at. In order to get the angle on it, I just end up putting this up in a vise, opening it up a little bit, and then the bottom of it, as you can see, it's bowed a little bit, but it'll work perfectly fine like that. I already test fit it to make sure that I'd still be able to get some holes on it, and that's how it's gonna go. So the next part is gonna be actually drilling the holes for it. I'll probably mount these side pieces on first. So I'm gonna need to cut a new one of these up, and then we'll probably work on taking this off. I'm gonna get another plate to sandwich it on the back of that to make that nice and solid, and then drilling through this bottom piece, both of these pieces. Alright, so after getting this off and taking a look at it, it almost looks like the best way to do this is actually going to be, I might just use some self-tapping screws, and with this on it, I'll drill some holes through, tap them through this little area, because there's nothing on the other side, it's completely empty. I think that's going to be the way to go to on this. There it is. It's all in there. Alright, next step is drill these holes out. So I'm gonna end up wanting it, so it's about 4 inches. So I'll do in 1 inch from each side. So I'm gonna end up going with, it's just about 4. So I'm gonna end up going somewhere like there and there. This will be my two choices, my two marks, and then I'm gonna go about midway. Doesn't matter too much on that for me. Figure out where they'll put us. Doesn't need to be perfect. It'll look good as long as they're somewhat even. All right, so I get this in here. About where I want it. I'm just gonna mark a one hole. She'll be right there. I'm gonna knock that one out, bolt it up, get about where I want it again, hit the other one. This one's gonna go. All right, here's what we got. Got top mount, I'll put in there. Leveled, bottom mount, I'll put in there. Only thing left to do is going to be stand that top part up, drilling holes. I'm gonna run 3 through this top piece, and then should be good to bolt up. And then I just gotta drill out a mount for the rest of it, and it'll be good to go. I ended up using some of this stuff. It's like a toolbox liner in between here, in hopes that it would, maybe it'll give it just a little bit less like possibility of vibrating. I think it'll be good, but I've never tried this, so I'll see how that works. On the last one I was using a huge piece of rubber, if I can find it. somewhere around here. I was using a big piece of rubber that was lining the bottom. I used RTV, which is still on here a little bit. And then I ended up just using rubber for the rest of it after I removed it once. So I'm gonna mount that up here, drill holes straight through it. I'll probably drill onto the thing on the workbench and then good to go. And I'll bolt it back up and see how it looks. All right, there it is, all mounted up. 3 bolts up top, 2 across the bottom. These are all metric 6, and then metric 8s on the bottom. These 2 little self-tappers were just a couple I'd sitting around. But I think it looks pretty clean so far. Now I just gotta mount that up there and see. This is one thing I'm really happy that they included, a little template. So rather than needing to like figure out some way to mount that up, I could end up just putting it up on there, drill my holes out. It'll be somewhere around in there. Makes it a lot easier. There's my template, all taped up. I noticed while I was doing it that because these bolts at the bottom, it ends up hitting the frame or that the mounting plate's on. And so I'm gonna need to, I had to move it up a little bit. So I'm gonna use these 2 bolts down here and then just these 2, because it comes with 4 bolts to put it in there. These 2 are just gonna be way too high, but it'll still work. All right, there it is. All mounted up in there. It's on there pretty secure. She's not gonna move. Maybe a little bit, but not enough. Not much. So this should definitely work. I mean, it's mounted straight to this and then straight to the metal on the inside, so it shouldn't. Next I just gotta get the ammo can put in here somewhere, clean up all my mess. So I'm gonna work on getting that in next. Alright, there's the end product. This all mounted up on this side. Just a little bit of room in the middle. This just barely clears it, but it clears it. So there's all the way shut. Comes on out. I guess it does hit a little. Wait, why is it hitting now? Okay, maybe I'm gonna have to clear that. Oh, okay, so in order to open it, I'm gonna have to pop it open and then push this down a little bit, and then it will pop open. I might clear inside just a little bit just to get rid of that issue, so I can just open it however I feel like it. Opens up, gets pretty much, I'm trying to get a good way to get light without the light in there. All right, goes up pretty much perfectly straight. This guy hit the vacuum, get in here, and then, all right, so here's the final outcome. She's all wired up now. I ended up clearing this out a little bit, so she clears pretty easily. I just end up rounding off the edge of this. I'm not gonna paint it. I'm not overly worried about that. Should be all right. Opens up, got all my hoses, everything all set up in there. Closes easily, runs up. I might do something different about this for the actual air, just because it sticks out. And I'll do like a little elbow coming down and over or something, maybe put it in here. Work pretty decently. And as far as wiring, I ran it straight down to, I have a fuse box set up underneath this rear seat. Ran it straight to that. While I was at it, I replaced the fuse I had on there with just a circuit breaker, like a 100 amp circuit breaker. That way it's supporting both this, which is 50 amps, and then my stereo amplifier, which is also under the seat. It's also supporting that. And then For the switches, I'm running them up through here. All the stock wiring harness allowed me to run it up in here. Right now I just have the one switch, which I'll turn it on just to show what it's looking like. So right now I just got the one switch on here, flips it on, only has to turn on for a little bit. And this other switch is controlled by the headlights. It's dimmable, everything like that. I have another switch that I'll end up replacing it with that I ordered. I'm just waiting for the little tray or the switch panel to come in. As far as noise for running this compressor, it's really not bad. There's this light, or there's a fan that constantly goes, but from my experience so far, I hardly hear that up front, especially with music playing, and then it doesn't turn on like at all unless you're running it. It turns on for like a second when I first start the vehicle, but after that it doesn't. I've driven around for like 2 hours and never had any situation where it needs to turn on to get the air pressure back up, compared to my last one where I'd do it every 5 minutes or so. So it seems to be good success. One issue that I did have was my original plan was running this little hose line, this little air line, which I did use on my last one, and I found out that this doesn't have the best airflow to it. I don't know if it's one of these connections or what, but for some reason the airflow's so low that the pump just turns on and off constantly, because it's able to get the air pressure up high enough to where it turns the pressure switch back off. So I spent hours trying to figure that out. I thought it was a power issue. Turns out that's all it was. So switching over to this got rid of that. I've only used it once to air up the tires, and it's pretty fast about it. Hey guys, thanks for watching this install. I hope I was able to help somebody out there. I know that when I was looking into this, there's not much around on board people who have actually installed these other than in their engine bay. So I thought I'd try to switch it up a little bit and at least create some sort of content for it. I may do something in the future just to do a quick overview on the Jeep itself and what's been done to it. Otherwise, there's going to be more content coming in the future. I have a lot more upgrades coming in soon. If you guys have any comments on it or any questions, feel free to leave it down below. I'll try to respond to you. Thanks.